Hey, what's up? My name is Sora. I'm coach of the Dover Delmize, and today we're going to be going through the draft review for my Season 13 team with the VBL. The VBL is a VGC-based draft league that runs its battles on Pokemon Showdown. I've played in 3 seasons previously with the league, so this will be my 4th. I took a break for a couple seasons just to focus on some other things, but the idea of this season's format was really what drew me back into playing. So if you're not familiar with a draft league, the way it works basically is you have a budget. In our case, we have 110 points and we have to pick 11 Pokemon. Each Pokemon is assigned a specific value on a tier list, in this case ranging from 1 point to 20 points, with the higher tiered or higher pointed Pokemon presumably being the best Pokemon available. The twist this time, though, is that we've eliminated a lot of the high-tier Pokemon that may have busted abilities or crazy stats that make them really stand out as high-tier Pokemon. What we're left with is a much smaller collection of overall much weaker Pokemon that don't really have all of the tools that those other high-tier Pokemon have. I think it's a really interesting way to approach a draft because you really have to start looking at Pokemon you might have never considered before as being good, because all of the really good Pokemon are gone, and what you're left with, you kind of just have to make of it what you will. So today we're going to go through my draft results for the draft. I had the 12th pick in the draft, and yeah, we're just going to take a look at the team, and I'll give some thoughts on each pick. So going into the draft, I was pretty sure that I wanted to try to take a fairy type with my first pick. And that's mostly because it turns out that the fairy type is pretty high tier, and so a lot of the good fairies are just not available in this pool. I originally really wanted to get Tinkaton from the 20-point tier because Fairy Steel is an amazingly good type. It has one of the best Steel type moves ever, Gigaton Hammer. It's got plenty of supporting options. It's got Fake Out, Encore, Thunder Wave, that kind of stuff. It seems like a really good Pokemon. Unfortunately, I wasn't the only one who thought that, and it didn't make it to me. So my next choice up was to take Pheasantipity. Pheasantipity is a Fairy type, but it's also a Poison type. It is not really an offensive Pokemon at all. It's definitely not going to scare anybody offensively without getting set up. However, it does have very good bulk and a super annoying ability called Toxic Chain, where any of my moves can cause bad toxic poison to the opponent. And that works on spread moves as well. So I can launch an Icy Wind or Dazzling Gleam and potentially toxic both Pokemon. So while it's not going to be a super terrifying offensive threat, it's still going to pressure these annoying status conditions. With my second pick, I opted to take Alolan Raichu. I originally had kind of a crazy plan where I wanted to draft a couple of electric terrain abusers in Alolan Raichu and Hawlucha for their Surge Surfer and Unburden abilities respectively. But I kind of felt like that was a little bit too much investment because I was also going to need to pick up like Electrode or Pincurchin or something that could pretty consistently set the terrain, and I just felt like that was too much investment for a gimmick. I did, however, still want to take Raichu because, I mean, first off, I love Raichu. I think Raichu is an amazing Pokemon. And I just really wanted to give it a try. It's got a pretty fast Fake Out, 110 speed is nothing to laugh at in this meta game, with a lot of the super fast Pokemon being removed. It is kind of, it's not like a super scary offensive threat, but like it can still do some stuff offensively with the electric and the psychic type moves. It's got some helping options as well, so I just feel like it's all around a fairly solid Pokemon. It's another ground weakness, which we're going to start to see as a bit of a pattern on my team, but yeah, I'm very happy to have Raichu and have the chance to use it. With my third pick, I was hoping to pick up a water type. I originally wanted Lapras. I didn't really expect it to go as soon as it did, but alas, that's how it goes. I wanted something maybe a little bit more offensive as a water type after Lapras was gone, so I ended up with Samurott Hisui. I think this is a really interesting Pokemon. It might not be the best in a normal format, but in a low tier format, I think it has some promise. Having a water and a dark type in one package is pretty nice. It has kind of like mediocre, I guess, attack stats. It's a mixed attacker. You're going to start to see a pattern where I have a lot of mixed attackers on my team, which maybe I didn't necessarily do consciously, but I kind of like that I did it in the end. This Pokemon has the ability Sharpness, which is pretty nice to have for any of its slashing moves. It kind of boosts up its fairly mediocre attack stat, but it can also be run special. All in all, I'm excited to use this Pokemon. I've never had a chance to use it before. I think it's going to be pretty decent in a low tier format. We'll just have to wait and see, but yeah, I'm happy to have it. With my fourth pick, I tripled down on my ground weakness and I took Lucario. I wanted a steel type. There's not a ton of steel types kicking around that stood out to me. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the fairy resist that a normal steel type would have because it also has the fighting type. But it's also kind of nice to have a fighting type on the team. For any normal types you run into, you have a stab fighting move to use into them. It's another mixed attacker, surprise. And it can set up in both ways, which is kind of nice. I'm happy to have it. It's one of the most popular Pokemon of all time, so I'm excited to use it. With my 5th pick, I was hoping to get something a little bit slower so that I wasn't just completely lost if I was ever in the Trick Room. And I also wanted something to resist ground, which, because at this point, I had a pretty crippling ground weakness. So I ended up with Diplin. And this is actually when I started my little foray into the 7-point tier, because I kind of felt like on this draft board, the 7-point tier was just an incredible value, like for what you get versus the points you spend. So I ended up taking a few Pokemon from this tier, and I would have even taken more if other Pokemon I wanted weren't taken. Yeah, Diplin. It has incredible bulk because it can hold the Eviolite. I think, in fact, with the Eviolite, it's like one of the bulkiest available Pokemon in this format, like on this draft board. So I'm happy to have some bulk. I always love to have a little bit of meat on the team. 95 special attack is like, it's fine. I think it's probably below average even in this format, but it's not terrible. It can, if it's sticking around for a long time, it'll chip things down over time. It's not going to be really one-shotting many things at all, but I think it's respectable enough. With my 6th pick, I wanted to, shore up my ground immunity / resistance a little bit more. In this case, I went with an immunity and Honchkrow, another 7-point Pokemon. It's got, I think, my highest attacking stat on the whole team, which is kind of funny for 7 points, but it can be run mixed. It's got 125 attack, 105 special attack with access to Nasty Plot, so it can set up, especially, it can do damage physically. Obviously, it doesn't have the greatest bulk, and its speed is kind of awkward, but if I can work around that, I think I can get some pretty good value out of this Pokemon, so I'm happy to have it. It's another Dark type, which is nice. My final 7-pointer was Pyroar. I wanted a Fire type, and in my opinion, a lot of the Fire types available on the board just weren't worth it. I didn't really respect the Fire starters for how much they cost, Blaziken, Emboar, Charizard. I just didn't really have enough respect for them. I think Typhlosion as well was like a 20-point Pokemon. I didn't really think any of them were worth that. So for a while, I thought I wasn't even going to be able to take a Fire type that I thought was usable, but then I sort of landed on Pyroar, and while it's not incredible by any means, it's my 2nd fastest Pokemon. It's got a Ghost immunity, decent special attack, it is what it is. It's not, it's a 7-point Pokemon, right? It's not going to be it shouldn't be my kit leader. I hope not. But I think it'll be usable. With my 8th pick, I needed a Trick Room setter. I really wanted Trimeco, but it got taken. Later on, I wanted Grumpig, but it also got taken. So I ended up with Hypno in the 4-point tier. The 4-point tier really just felt like the best tier for like single-minded Trick Room setters with some supporting options and some other like decent qualities. In Hypno's case, it's like okay bulk with inner focus, so it can't be flinched through fake out. So you don't have to run Covert Cloak. You can run Mental Herb to ensure that you get Trick Room up. It's a 4-point Pokemon. It's a Trick Room setter. It's kind of it's what it says on the tin. So yeah, I need a Trick Room setter, so I took one. With my 9th pick, I wanted another ground resistance if I could find one. I also wanted an Iron Defense Body Press user on my team because I feel like in a format with a lower overall power level, having the ability to set up your defense really high and just start pressing Body Press could be pretty good. I think Torterra is a very good option for that because of the Shell Armor ability. I can set up those defense boosts and I can't get crit, so they can't be ignored, except by moves that specifically ignore or abilities that specifically ignore stat changes. It's pretty bulky overall. Like it's not like amazing bulk, but it's pretty okay. It's got acceptable offense and it's got options for setup. It has Shell Smash, it can Swords Dance, obviously, like I said, Iron Defense, Body Press. So I'm pretty happy that I landed on this. I had a lot of points at this point, so it was, I had to use them anyway. So despite it being 15 points, I feel like I got pretty good value out of it at this point in the draft. My 10th pick, I wanted another Trick Room setter, so I took another 4-point Pokemon, Banette. It obviously is pretty dreadful bulk, and its speed stat's really awkward, but it's got decent attack. And like I said, it's my secondary Trick Room setter. It's not gonna carry the team or anything like that, but yeah, I just needed another Trick Room setter, and this felt like really my only great option that I had left, so that's what I went with. And finally, I had 1 point left for my last pick, so, you know, you don't really put too much stock into your 1-pointers unless you're memeing or trolling. But I don't know, I took Meowth before. It was the Alolan Meowth. It didn't really do anything. So I don't really expect the normal Meowth to do anything for me either. But you know, it's got fast Fake Out, Icy Wind, Fake Tears, Taunt. I have other options for those moves, but like, yeah, it's there. It's not gonna break the world or anything, but it's an option. So overall, I'd say I'm pretty happy with the team. My type chart is not the best by any means. You know, having a Fairy weakness is a little awkward because I assume Terra Fairy, Terra Blast will be somewhat common. Having a ground weakness is not the best. Despite having a couple of resistances, I have plenty of weaknesses to it. Not super worried about like a flying or a bug weakness, but I'll definitely need to play around them. I'd say all in all, you know, like I said, I'm pretty happy with the team. I think it'll be fun to use, and that's really all I can ask for. I don't consider myself to be an incredibly good drafter or anything like that. So the goal is always to just draft a team that looks fun, and then try to win as many games as I can. The VBL is a very tough league, even if you're going against opponents who are doing special draft challenges, like only drafting non-fully evolved Pokemon, or letting their wives do their draft for them. It's never easy to get wins. There's always going to be incredible sets built by the coaches, and they're always going to come at you with their best shot. So it's hard to have expectations going in other than let's just try to have some fun. So that's the plan. We'll be playing our matches for the next few weeks. I have the schedule up here if you want to take a look. We're currently in content week, and depending on when I get this video edited and uploaded, it'll probably be like a week and a half or so until the first match is played. So until then, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're looking forward to the matches as much as I am, because I'm very excited to be back and be playing again. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.